Good morning, children. We have completed chapter first, that is the fundamental unit of life, cell. Now we will study about next chapter, that is tissues. So in first chapter you have studied that organisms are being divided into two parts on the basis of the number of cell present in their body, that is unicellular and multicellular. In unicellular organism, all the activity of the body is being carried by the single cell, whereas in multicellular organism there are million of cells. So they show division of labor, where different component of the body take up the different functions like movement through contraction and relaxation of muscle, conduction of message by the nerve impulse, etc. So division of labor has been made possible by specialization of cell and their groupings. So, tissues are group of cells having a common origin and similar or related structure which work together to perform a common function, that is called tissue. So, don't do mistake while writing that group of cells having common origin. This you have to write. If you are writing simple like group of cells that perform a common function, then the answer will not be correct. You have to write that those which are having the common origin and similar or related structure. This you have to write. Then only the definition will be completed. So when the similar cells combine together, they form the tissues. Same way, similar tissues combine together to form organ and then organ to organ system. In class 9 you will study about the cell and tissue, in which cell already you have studied, tissue in this chapter you will study, and in class 10 you will study about the organ and organ system. Now difference between plant and animal tissue. So plant tissues comprises of dead supportive tissues. So in plant these dead supportive tissues are more as compared to living tissues. Whereas in animal, living tissues are more as compared to the dead tissues. Now what is the reason behind it? That plant are having the more dead tissues whereas the animals are having the more living tissues. The reason behind is that the plant tissues are not motile. Motile means they cannot move. They are stationary. So they need more supportive tissue. Whereas animal tissues are means animals can move, so these tissues are comprises of more living tissues as compared to dead tissue. Next, plant tissue require less maintenance energy, whereas animals require more maintenance energy. The reason behind is the same, because animal tissue comprises of more living tissue, so it require more maintenance energy, whereas plant tissue comprises of dead tissues, so they require less maintenance energy. Next, plant tissue. In plant tissue, the growth in plant is limited to certain region, whereas in animals, they do not show growth after reaching the maturity. Now you might be thinking that when plants are also multicellular, animals are also multicellular, then why the difference is there in their tissue? So the reason behind is that first is the mobility. Mobility means movement. So plants are stationary or fixed, so they require more of supportive tissue for obtaining structural strength. Most of their tissue are dead. The dead tissue provide more mechanical strength. Plant therefore require less maintenance energy. So as plant cannot move, they remain stationary in their place, so they need more strength, mechanical strength, so they contain more dead tissue as compared to living tissue. Next point is growth. Plants continue to grow throughout their life, whereas animals stop growing after becoming mature. For continuing growth, plant possesses meristematic tissue in specific region of the body. Now, new term you have listened, that is the meristematic tissue. So this tissue we will study in this chapter. Okay. Next is structural organization. In having organ and organ system, structural organization of animal is far more specialized and localized as compared to plant. It is due to mobility and different feeding method of animal. So as the animals can move, so they are having the different organization level. Now, plant tissue. Plant tissue is being divided into two parts. First is the meristematic tissue, another is the permanent tissue. Meristematic tissue means those tissues which are having the capacity to divide, and permanent tissues are those tissues which has lost the power of division. Means those meristematic tissue which has lost the power of division, they become the permanent tissue. Now you can think that those tissues which are having the capacity to divide means they can help in the growth and development, whereas those which have lost the power of division, they help to give the mechanical strength. So now we will study about the meristematic tissue, but before we study the meristematic tissue, we will do the activity 6.1. Activity 6.1 is the growth of roots in onion bulb. Now in this experiment, after little growth of the roots in the both the onions, we have cut the root tips of onion A, or the onion placed in tumbler A. Now let's see the entire experiment to observe what happens after 3 to 4 days. Now to study meristematic tissue, we will do activity 6.1. With the help of this activity, you will come to know how meristematic tissue helps in growth and development. Now study of the root tip of the onion. In this activity, you will learn about tissues present in the root tips. Do you know how plants grow? Well, it is the continuous and active division of cells at the apex of the plant that result in its growth. Let us conduct an activity to study cells and tissues that help a plant to grow by observing the root tip of the onion. Now required items. To study the growth in the root tip of the onion, you need 2 same sized onions, 2 glass tumbler filled with water, a scissor. Now let's begin the activity. Take 2 glass filled with water and mark this tumbler as A and B. Now take 2 onion bulb of the same size and place one in each tumbler, such that only the lower surface of the bulb is in contact with the water. After that, leave both the tumblers undisturbed for 3 to 4 days. Observe the onion bulb on each day to note the growth of the roots. Every day you have to write the growth of the root. Now in case of the tumbler B, since the roots have not been cut, the root tip continues to grow longer. This root tip is the reason of growth. The root tip consists of a tissue called meristematic tissue, whose cells keep dividing and hence result in the growth of roots. While in the case of tumbler A, the root tip was cut, which resulted in the absence of the region of growth. Since meristematic tissue was absent, no cell division took place, and hence the growth of root stopped. From the above activity, it can be concluded that root tip of the onion has a specific type of tissue called meristematic tissue, which causes the growth of the plant. In this activity, you have learned that root tip of the onion has a specific type of tissue called meristematic tissue, which causes the growth of a plant. Meristematic tissue is a group of cells that divides and grows continuously and hence causes a plant to grow. So I hope you must have understood. If you have any doubt, you can ask through the campus care. Thank you.